this is the bit where we don't want you to be big-headed and get too far that way, because then that will put you off the learning process. Learn from other people. Don't try to be other people, be yourself. But when you look at other people, even in your team, on the television, of course, you get lots of opportunities to see other players play soccer, and you can learn from them and have this end result in line. You want to get to a certain level and have that progress measured so you can see how you're moving on. If what you're doing makes you happy, then there's more chance that you'll be good at it. Okay, so being happy on the soccer field is because you're doing things well. Okay, things aren't the way they're supposed to be always. They are what they are. So you sometimes have to just deal with what you've got. If you've got players on your team, for instance, who aren't up to your standard, then you have to get on with it. You can't just say, oh, they're not good enough to be with me. That's silly. You've got to then improve them as best you can, but look at your improvement as being the main area. And of course, for the team, you accept that awkward things will happen. It's normal. Then you'll be better equipped and prepared to handle them when problems like that come up. The bottom line there is from an English author, John Milton. The mind is its own place and can make a heaven of hell or a hell of heaven. So that means when things are not so good, if you want to in your head, you can make them think if they're even worse. Or if you get the right attitude, you can turn them into positives and go from there and make things better. Communication, okay, you're in a team game, so obviously there's plenty of communication at that level. This though, I mean that you've got your feelings about where you are as a player, how it's going, what you feel good about, what's not working for you, and so on. So don't just bottle them up, share the feelings, and particularly with other players, sometimes it can help, with your coach, of course, and be truthful, okay? Sharing ideas and bouncing ideas off other people can be stimulating, and it stops you getting stale because it challenges your thinking. Now, you know, you value friends and colleagues who make you think. The title there, Yes Men, or Yes Women, if it's for ladies. I don't want to say that you just always want people who are saying good things to you. There are sometimes the need for someone to say, well, maybe you could have done that better. Maybe that was, and that's what the coach will do. They will praise you when you do well, but they also need to give you ideas of how to improve on something you haven't done so well, and accept that. You don't want people who just say good things to you, because that's not giving you ideas of how you can improve. So the knowledge that other people have is helpful for you, so you can debate those situations. Only fools and dead men don't change their minds. There will be times when you'll change your mind. You'll have thought this is the way to do it. It hasn't worked out that way. Change your mind and try something else. Okay, uncertainty, it's everywhere. It's endemic. There's always uncertainty, whatever you're talking about. But if you can't be sure of something, can you still maybe move forward and wait until the uncertainty becomes a bit more obvious to you as to what's needed? You have to maintain your values. They're changing all the time to meet today and tomorrow, not yesterday. Think of someone who kicks up a fuss, someone who makes a fuss out of nothing. You don't want to be that person. That type of person doesn't help the team. If you can be someone who doesn't make a fuss and gets on with it, then you will be valuable to the team and to your teammates. It's not about knowing what's going to happen next, but being okay with knowing that whatever it is, you can handle it. You will have a go at working on whatever crops up. And here we have the word ignorance. Now, all ignorance is not being stupid, it's not having the information. So you're inexperienced. And with more experience, you'll get towards expert status and you'll get better. Maybe we think we know it all until things go wrong. We must stay hungry to learn, wanting to know more. Open up to new ideas by letting go of preconceived notions, stereotypes, prejudice, and supposed facts that are really just assumptions. Things change and you change. So be curious about how you've changed and give change a chance. Now, take responsibility for what's ahead of you. Don't leave it to someone else to make all your decisions. It's your life. You're in charge. You make the decisions. You take ownership. So what you've done is who you are. What you plan to do is who you can be. And with this, you have a clear philosophy of where you're heading, where you're wanting to be. In my experience, a lot of the players wanted to be professional players at Liverpool. Of course, some did go that way. Some made a professional career at other clubs, and some just went back into amateur soccer. They would play football, but they would get another job. So if your actions and aims are in conflict, then your performance will suffer. Announce your principles. Say what you think are your values and stick to them. Keep the integrity and clarity of your values. It gives your club its DNA, its culture, its way. At Liverpool, we had what we call the Liverpool way, and the players were looking to fit into that. Targets now. Have you set yourself easily achievable limits on who you are or what you can be? If you're playing too safe and your thinking's too small, you're looking to take the path of least resistance, then you won't achieve everything you could. You need to be challenged. So you need to take chances. Find a way to add some life and energy to your work. It will give your work more purpose. And this is one. We never liked it when someone said, "It will do." Now, we would say, "It will do, won't do." We don't want something that will just do. We want it to be good. We want it to be acceptable, to be better. And if you aim to fail, then, wow, if you aim to fail, you're going to be successful. That sounds silly, but the lower you aim, the easier it is to attain it. We want you to attain, to look to achieve as best as you can. So you need to be looking at what your target is and just a smidgen, a little bit extra to that. You don't want the targets to be too high. We like to be successful. So we don't want to aim for something that is unachievable. That will just hurt us. So don't promise more than you can deliver. Broken promises aren't good. Give yourself a reputation as someone who delivers. You're dependable. We mentioned that before. And you'll be viewed as someone who does what he says will do. An achiever. Be an achiever. Now, this is the last page. And so I would give this sheet to my players and they would take it away, and you'll see it's got aims on the left-hand side. What do you want to happen for you in the next week? So obviously very short-term aim. In the next month, a little longer. In the next year. And okay, long-term. Well, long-term we can dream. We're not always sure what will happen, but we can still have a long-term dream and an idea of what we want for our career. So we've got the 4 boxes on the left, and what I say to players is write these in pencil, because you're then going to bring it to me. And on the right-hand side, if you've got some ideas of how we can achieve this, fill in the actions. Again, write in there what you would think is the best way to achieve those aims. And you've got them set out next week, next month, next year, and okay, in your career. And then my idea then is for you as a player to sit down with your coach on a one-to-one with this sheet and talk it through on a one-to-one basis, where the coach might tell you, you can do better than this. You need to aim higher. Maybe the coach will say, oh, that's just not going to happen so soon. That maybe is better for something in the next year, and you're wanting it to be next month or next week. So talking it through and debating it with the coach will end up with a page here that you can, as a player, take away and keep looking at it, keep checking on it. And so your progress, okay, the coach is always keeping an eye on your progress all the way through, game after game, training after training, just how you are as a player. around the academy, how you are with other players. The coach will be assessing you all the time. But as a player, how do you assess yourself? And it's good to have a think about what your aims are, what your hopes are, making them realistic, and then having some actions to go with it. And that way, you've got a little document, even if it's on a piece of paper, it's in your head as well. That's the main place for it to be, is in your head. And you're thinking about that. That's what I want to achieve, and this is my plan. And that way, you're going to have a possible way of achieving those things step by step. Okay, Anthony, I hope I haven't gone through that so quickly. There's a lot of writing there and a lot of talking. And some people have sometimes said, yeah, I'm good at talking. I don't want to be just good at talking. I want to be talking sense. But, and I go back to the idea of the whole process here was, I didn't want players to get too big-headed and think they'd made it. But I also didn't want them to go into a shell and not show us what they can do, because that's what we're looking for all the way through. And when players go onto Anfield and play for Liverpool, they're there not so much to show off, that's not the word we would use, but to show their best, show what they can do for themselves and for the team and for the club and for the fans. And that was the sort of message from this talk.
Quite encouraging your players to think outside the box and be the best that they could be. Would you say that is the guidelines that you were looking at in terms of?
Yeah. I want them to realize they have a fantastic opportunity. They will get better just through their training and coaching and playing and so on. They're in such a good place, but we don't want them to just get a bit better. We want them to be as best as they can be, because then if they don't make it to be a professional, they've tried their best. I did mention that often the worst thing about at the end of your career is having regrets about what you didn't do, what you didn't try. You want to at least say, I gave it my best, and okay, maybe I didn't quite make it, or because if you don't give it your best, we'll never know.
Okay, so John, one of the things I'd like to ask you, because we see a lot of players who turn professional players, and after their career has ended, they are not in a place that they would like to be. How do you attest to that, Sir John? You see, and I repeat it again because I know on the different social media it might be a question somebody wants to ask. You know, how do you guide a player that after having that illustrious career playing, that you are not, you know, in a position after you finish playing soccer at that high level, that you're not in a position where you can live a comfortable life because of the amount of contracts you sign or different things you sign, and you find yourself in a place where you didn't expect to find yourself because you were more focusing on playing soccer but not see the whole picture. How would you attest to that, Sir John?
Yeah, what we try to sort out is that they see this bigger picture. Of course, they need to focus on their progress as a player for the team and the club, but outside of that, they need to know that it could go wrong at any time with an injury. Never mind whether they get to, you know, the over 30s and suddenly they start to realize their career is maybe coming to an end. But it can happen at any time. Now, the worry is, and I've seen it sometimes with, I don't want to decry all agents, but some agents, they use the players. It's like a game for them to make money for them, not for the player. They don't always look after the player as much as they should. That's the job of the agent, really, as well as finding them a new club and a better contract. That's what it seems to be. But they need to do that. Now, as a club, up to the age of 18, when they would be with us in an academy, we would very much have an educational part to our program. Now, when they go to first team, when they go into reserves and first team and sign a professional contract, they almost lose that idea. The coaches that they have are wanting to get the best out of them on a Saturday, for instance, in a game. Not so much an overall picture of how to help the player with other things. And more now, clubs are realizing that they do have a responsibility. So they don't just have lots of coaching staff at the top level, they will have people who can give them advice. Even, for instance, when they get married, they have children, which are the schools, how to do this, how to get a mortgage, things like that, which are normal things. Usually our family can help us with ideas on that, but sometimes these players don't have that around them. And we don't just want to treat them just as footballers, as soccer players. They are also people who have a big future. Now, the job of being a professional soccer player, it will come to an end much sooner than if you're a teacher, a lawyer, a doctor. You don't have such a long career. And some don't think about it early enough. They don't have it in their mind until they suddenly find themselves, they're no longer a player, nobody wants them. What are they going to do? And that means that before that, something's gone wrong at the club to not have advisors with those players. So clubs now are understanding that a lot more. But okay, the player also has to open up to want that advice.